Hello and welcome everybody to this episode of the Get Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast. I am your host, Fahizi, and I am so excited for today's guest. And here she is. Hello!
Hello.
Hi, Isabel or DJ Mad Dog. How we doing?
Doing great. It's a beautiful morning. I'm here
Oh
in
my god.
Arizona, having a good time.
Hell yeah. It's a beautiful morning here in the San Francisco Bay Area as well. And I am very grateful to you for joining us. And I'm very grateful to our audience for making the time now or whenever in the future um, to join us and to be moved by your story. Um, with that, I would love to spend a couple of minutes just introducing you before we turn the mic to
Of
you,
course. Yeah.
Isabel. Um, yeah. So Isabel or DJ Mad Dog is a mixed race person, half Latina, half white, who's born in Massachusetts, but moved to Tucson, Arizona earlier in life and pretty much grew up in Arizona for most of her life before moving back to Massachusetts in her later teenage years. Um, Isabel, you grew up, sort of pretty, sort of involved in the creative pursuits, many different media, including visual art, and bouncing around from one medium to another. But art was always a consistent theme in your life. In addition, you did acting and musical theater,
Yeah.
for about 10 years. Today's story, though, today's journey will focus on exploring the role of music in your life and how you ended up on this path of becoming a DJ against the odds, right? So
Right.
for our audience, here now and the future, there is a big disparity in the DJ world, which is, why I'm so excited to do this episode. I'm not sure of the exact percentages,
Yeah.
but female DJs are rare. And it is significantly harder for females, women, to be inspired and have a way to, follow, their dream of, passion pursuit or career within the DJ world. And what we hope to do, Isabel and I, today is do our part to inspire more women, share Isabel's story, to empower them, in the interest of changing the trajectory for future generations, right?
Yeah.
So powerful stuff here. Thank you so much, Isabel, and thank you to our audience. So with that, Isabel, I'd love for you to share with the audience what is the story of how we met.
Okay. So it was at the beginning of the night. Was very unsure. Like, didn't
Mm,
know how it was gonna go, but basically I had a show at I had a set I was gonna play at pole position at the Cantab in Cambridge,
mm,
Massachusetts. And I had just, you know, going into the set, I had no idea how it was going to go. I had just finished the set and it had gone really great. And I had gone over to the bar, I think to get some water. I had gone over to the bar, and then that is when you had approached me and we talked briefly about, you asked me where I had DJed before, if I DJed any other cities, and then we had a brief conversation about uh, my journey, I guess, as a DJ and how I had gone from for like a whole year, over a year, doing like bedroom DJing, like making mixes just in my house and uploading them online, to then uh, performing like out in the city at venues and at shows. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is where we met, and we talked about doing this interview, and that was all the way back in, I believe, like the middle or the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
Now here we are, finally
Hell
going.
yeah. We made it happen despite the odds. So can you, I'm very curious, and actually, I don't think this has come up yet,
Okay.
but what's the story of how you ended up with your DJ name?
Oh, okay. So I've told this story a few times. It's like a cute story, but
Okay.
basically, my ex-boyfriend, at the time we were dating, and we went to an ice cream shop called
Mm,
Lizzie's in Waltham, and they had a flavor of sorbet that was
mm,
mango sorbet with like chili powder in it. So it was like spicy mango sorbet.
mm,
And the name of the flavor was Mad Dog Mango. And my boyfriend at the time, he just, as a joke, like pointed to the menu and said, "Oh, that's you," because I don't know, the flavor of the ice cream, and then Mad Dog, like I really love dogs, and it was just kind of a joke, and it turned into, like my Instagram handle. And then
mm,
the story I told you about how I got to DJ for the first time, I just had that name, already had that name. So it kind of,
mm.
yeah, I got named a little bit. Then
Okay.
I adopted it.
The name chose you.
Kind of, in a way.
All right, DJ Mad Dog. Um, so during the introduction, I shared a little bit about your relationship with art and music, earlier in life, growing up in Tucson,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I guess I'm very curious for you to share with the audience, more specifically your relationship with music, in your teens, and what that looked like, as a teenager.
Right. So when I was like a younger teenager and still living in Arizona, I like I don't know. I think it was a thing of the time, but also a thing with my family. I didn't have my own computer. The family computer was like, we didn't get one until like a little bit later, and it was kind of an old, slow dinosaur computer. So didn't have
Mm,
a lot of like I didn't have a lot of access to different software, and I just didn't have the knowledge of it. So like primarily I like consumed, I guess, and like messed around with music stuff through like iTunes. And anybody who
mm,
remembers how iTunes used to be, it used to just be like a library of your music, just like a list of your music. And so,
mm,
um, like the first things, besides always listening to music and loving it, like most
mm,
people, the first things that I can remember doing, like myself with music, are taking, like, checking out CDs from the library, um, and like burning them onto my computer, onto iTunes, and then getting like a pack of like blank discs from
mm,
Radio Shack or something. Uh, then making my own playlists and burning them onto CDs. And I would do that like I think one or two times. I gave it to a friend, but I would just do it for myself, like to be able to make playlists, I guess, and put them on
mm,
the radio, because my radio was still just like a CD disc and AM FM. Like that was what I was listening
mm.
to music on. and like discovering new music on the radio.
Mm.
So yeah, that was like what I was doing first. In Arizona, that's really all I got to do. So
Yeah, and it's really interesting, in some regards, creating mixtapes. You were sort of a DJ without even realizing it, right? Um, which I think is very, very, very interesting.
it is
And
funny in retrospect, yeah.
yeah, and I also think what's very interesting, because this is something that we've spoken a little bit more detail, is sort of your family's values around creating balance between the role of technology in your life versus, financial abilities and, sort of recognizing how despite, its issues, technology is the future and like exposing your children to be comfortable with technology and creating that right balance, how that can open up opportunities,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, and it sounds like, your exposure to technology, and this is something we'll get into later on,
Hmm.
created some sort of a intimidation factor
Yeah,
to technology.
yeah, definitely. Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah, so even when I was making like those mixtapes, just burning songs onto discs, I was still like, oh, I only know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to do all this other
Mm-hmm.
stuff on this with the software. I don't know how like it really works and all that. Um, because like like I said, I didn't have um my own laptop until much later in my teens, and our family
Mm-hmm.
computer wasn't really like all that functioning. So my
Mm-hmm.
mom, and part of those reasons were for like I think part of the reason was both of my parents' jobs that they worked didn't require them to like um, be online really at all
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And then also, like you were saying, my mom, um, it's still even important to her now, but it was especially important when all of her kids were younger, um, to basically like limit screen time and limit time
Mm-hmm.
with technology. And you know, when I was a kid, with my younger brothers, it might have changed a little bit, but when I was a kid, my mom did enforce pretty strict amounts of screen time that I would have. And also, like, to balance that out, it was really important for her that I would, like, go outside and be with nature and just
Mm-hmm.
play outside, not stay indoors the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think I benefited from that a lot in my younger years. I think young kids can benefit a lot from that.
Mm-hmm. And I personally am a very big student of limiting beliefs. It's something that I'm very passionate about learning more and more. And a part of me wonders how instances like this earlier on in life forms limiting beliefs that we might have, in this case, specifically around technology,
Mm,
right? That act as chains, as shackles to essentially, in some ways, direct the trajectory of our life
mm-hmm,
um, later on because of those preconceived notions we have as a result of these limiting beliefs. And I think what's really beautiful about your story is that through your own choices and the people who you were surrounded by in regards to music and technology, you were able to overcome that, right? And so that's beautiful. Um, All right. So, um, let's talk about um, basically uh, your journey back to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Um, how old were you, and what happened to where you found yourself steeped in music much more so than before?
Um, so I moved back and forth a bunch of times when I was like 13, 14, 15 from Arizona to Massachusetts. And I finally moved
Really?
here. Yeah, there's a
A
whole
lot of
thing.
chaos.
Some chaos, yeah, definitely some chaos. Definitely some indecision on
Mm,
certain people's parts. But so when we finally decided to stay in Massachusetts, um, took some time, but I started to meet people my age. I started to make friends with people. I did some more acting for a little while, but then I
mm,
stopped. And uh, then I started to become friends with people. Um, I became very close with one person in particular and started to become friends with this whole friend group who were just starting to like make music or were just starting to put their music out there for other people to hear and try out music. So, like these friends at the time, they were producers, uh, rappers, musicians, and uh, but none of them were DJs primarily, but we at some point music popularity started to grow and like uh, people wanted to see them perform their songs live. They wanted to hear the songs um,
mm,
when they were out, and so like we started to have parties, we started to have shows, and we acquired. They bought together. They bought DJ equipment, and so for a long time, I was just around them and their music, and like especially with production and making beats, I would like sit with them for hours while they would work on a song, and I would give my input and give feedback, and like not unwarranted. They would ask, do you like this? Does
mm,
this sound good? Um, and I learned a lot about music in general, um, just through that. I
mm,
wasn't like being taught how to produce, but I just learned a lot about music and the like
mm,
construction of it, and like kind of like almost like a veil was lifted, but
mm,
in a good way, not like
mm,
disillusionment in a negative way, but in a way where I was like, oh, this thing actually is very formulaic. And so yeah, we were all like surrounded by music, but all of my friends they had their art that they were making, and I was like
mm,
a part of their art and a part of the community and a part of the friendship, but I wasn't involved myself. Like
mm,
I didn't
mm,
have any personal projects or personal stakes in things. I didn't make anything. I didn't do anything on my own. So I always kind of felt a little bit outside, like a little bit separated from it. Um, until, one day, I don't know if you want to get into the story now, but
Actually, before we do,
yeah,
a quick tangent,
of
right?
course.
So I am a big believer, you know, um, that every human being, we are a product of our environment. And
So cute.
we're a product of our environment. And, you ended up in an environment where you were surrounded by these musicians, creative musicians who changed the trajectory of your life,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now, the other thing that I know is you are extroverted, so you meet a lot of people.
Mm.
Now, I presume, if you're anything like me, who's extroverted, moving to a new place, you are probably meeting a lot of different people, right?
Yeah,
And people who
yeah,
weren't just in the music scene.
yeah. No,
So,
lots of different people.
yeah, but, in some ways, maybe without even realizing it, you subconsciously or consciously chose to surround yourself with
Hmm.
more of these. So, is there something there? And if so, do you have anything to share from that time of your life when you were navigating these different friendships, and, the choice of spending more and more time with these people?
Right. So, um, yeah, now that you mention it, for a long time I was friends, like when I first moved back up here in my later teens, I was just friends with the people who I did acting with, and those were like my only
Mm-hmm.
friends here for a while. And then one of those girls um,
Mm-hmm.
went to a large public school in Cambridge. She went to
Mm-hmm.
CRLS, Cambridge Ringen, and so she started inviting me out with her friends from school and inviting me to parties with those friends, and that is how I met the first person who became later then became a producer, and I started hanging out with them a lot. But at the time they weren't making music. They weren't a musician at all. Um, we were all still in high school. They played soccer, and you know um, I slowly started to meet all these people kind of through her, I guess, who weren't I wasn't aware if they were musicians at the time. I didn't know. And some of them I started to become close to very fast, and some of them I just knew about them through our friend group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really funny. It just happened so naturally. Like it definitely didn't happen consciously for me. It was like I just started becoming very close to this person who started producing, and then they kind of became like a root for like the collective that we built. And like I like started inviting this one other guy over a lot, and he became like um I mean, he was already a rapper, but then he became part of our group and became like one of our primary, like, I don't know, bigger personalities in the group who would like get opportunities for us and stuff. And then another friend too, who when I first met them, we didn't like each other. We didn't get along at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like once um when music was being made, like we just, I don't know, we formed an unbreakable bond. Like that person, we both DJ'd. So um
Wow.
hold on, I'm about to get my charger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it almost like doing this interview process with you and looking back on it, it seems even more like magical. Like it seems even more like I don't even know how this really happened.
You know, it's
And I'm so
interesting.
glad it did.
Sorry, could you repeat that last part? You got cut off.
Yeah, you got cut off too. I just said oh, I forget. But I think I just said it was like it's just a coincidence how it happened. It's just magical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, um, I'm really glad that we got a chance to sort of spend a little bit of time talking about this, because I know it hadn't come up before and I hadn't planned it.
Hmm.
But I'm as you were talking, I couldn't help but wonder that you had all these actor friends, right? And one of
Hmm.
them, as you mentioned, got into this new school and started inviting you. Was there something you still made the decision to not spend as much of your time with your acting friends
Hmm.
and spend more of your time with this emerging circle, right?
Yeah.
At that point, not knowing what was transpiring.
Yeah.
But was there something about your acting journey that wasn't as alluring anymore? What is there something there?
Yeah, so I never fell out of love with doing it. Like I always loved doing acting, and even at this point I think when I have some time I would like to get back into it. But
Mm,
what was happening was the theater group that I was a part of, one by one, all my friends were slowly leaving to do other things.
mm,
So I was one of the last ones to still be in the plays when, and it was with all of these new people who had joined, who were just kind of like, they were the people who had volunteered, but I felt like the enjoyment was
mm,
slowly disappearing because
mm,
these other people I was doing it with, you know, for acting, you need chemistry, and I just think sometimes if you don't get along with anybody in real life, it makes the whole process of acting more difficult and way less enjoyable. So, like the last show I did with that group, it was just very difficult. I felt sad, like all my friends had left me.
mm,
So then I just went to meet new people too, and I didn't really stop hanging out. Like I still am friends with one or two of them. But
mm.
yeah, we just all kind of went separate ways.
Yeah, the universe was pushing you into a different direction.
Yeah, I was like, okay, something new. But I'm glad it did. Yeah,
I mean, we're both glad it did because you wouldn't be here.
I know.
Thank you for that tangent, that beautiful tangent, Isabel.
Of course. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Um, so, so tell us about, so at this point, to catch the audience up, you are in this group of musical producers, and you're spending a lot of your time with them, and you're soaking up a lot about the musical production process, the creative process, probably even some of the technology, something that's been a point of intimidation for you. Um,
Yeah.
but you don't have any projects of your own. You're not really doing any creation similar to what, people in your musical collective are doing. So tell us the story of the turning point. What happened that,
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, it was very impulsive and intuitive
mm,
happenstance.
such a sexy word, intuitive.
Yes, I love
Ugh.
it. So what happened was so all the friends that I was with who were producers and rappers, once we started to have shows and parties, like we would have house shows ourselves, and then once we started to try to get booked for venues, we started like working with other organizers in the city. Um, and we were working with this one organizer, uh, Ryan, for a long period of time. And during one of the beginning stages of working together, um, he he had like I think it was a monthly. I don't think it was weekly. Yeah, I think it was like a monthly show. He would put some of my friends on the lineup sometimes, and so we were on good terms. And he wanted to have an event that was all female artists, so like all
Mm,
female rappers and a female DJ,
mhm,
to be working with all the rappers. But then uh, he started talking about how he didn't know any female DJs, and he talks about that for like a few brief moments before him and one of my friends at the time approached me, and they were like, "Do you want to be the DJ for this show?" And I'm like, "I'm not a DJ. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a DJ." And they're like, "Do you want to learn within the week? You wanted to learn in 1 week how to DJ and then DJ at the show?" And I didn't. When they first asked me that, I was like, "Hell no, that sounds scary as fuck. I don't want to do that. Like, I actually don't." And then my friend was very, you know, my friend persisted just once, but like very hard. And
Mm-hmm.
he told me that he knew I would do a good job, and he's not the type of person to lie to you or bullshit to your face, so I could tell,
Mm-hmm.
he really believed in me, and his belief in me like struck me to the point where I felt like, oh, okay, like I guess I can do it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think, like if you believe in me and if you will help me, I can do it. But like we talked about before, one of my big fears, like going up and DJing live for the first time, well, my initial fear is like anybody's fear when they are asked to do something they don't know how to do. I don't know how to do it, so I'm gonna mess up. But even the thought of learning it, I felt that I could mess up because I'm not the most technological savvy, especially like amongst people my age. I really
Mm-hmm.
was like so intimidated by any production software, DJ software. I was intimidated by the DJ equipment. I didn't feel that um, I could adequately learn, even if I was taught. I felt that there was be something that I would be behind because I lacked all of that experience as a
Mm-hmm.
younger kid. Um, but I started learning during that whole week where I was just practicing with my friend's equipment. As soon as I started to practice and as soon as I started to learn, I just like fell in love, I guess. I was just having so much fun. I was just like, I guess I felt like a child. Like there was like a childlike joy in it, and in discovering this thing that had been so intimidating is actually like fun. Like it was a crazy feeling, and I was still
Mm-hmm.
so scared and so nervous before my first show. Yeah, the whole time leading up to it, but then on the day of, and as I was doing it, I remember in the moment I just felt so, I don't know, I felt so present. I just felt fine. um
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like this amazing beautiful memory, but it was like I remember just feeling like a kind of a calm that I didn't expect to feel. And then I remember after just doing that first show, I was like, oh shit, I think I want to do this for real. But yeah, that's the story. That's the story of my first gig.
Wow. You know, there are several elements of your story that really stuck out to me. The first was how, you know, like, I'm the kind of person when opportunity comes up, I'm hungry as fuck,
Hmm.
And I'd be like, me,
Yeah.
right? And here is this like event that's built for you, right? Like, I think it's beautiful. Whoever's idea and whoever like made the decision, like it sounded like one where they're trying to empower other women with an all female lineup, right? So
Hmm.
here's this event made for you, and they're having this conversation about a female DJ in front of you, and
Hmm.
you're just like this. I just picture you as a quiet mouse, just like, don't pick me.
More
And
like
then
an unassuming mouse being like, I
unassuming
wonder where
mouse.
we could find that.
Yeah.
It's more like that.
And
But yeah,
then
pretty
attention comes to you,
much.
and you're
Yeah,
like, me? No, not me.
exactly. what it was like.
Not me. Anybody but me.
Yeah,
And then this like God sent friend of yours is like, no, Isabel,
yeah,
I believe in you. Even though this is a weak way,
yeah,
despite your fear of technology, you got this, baby. You got this. And he was
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, okay.
Exactly like that. Exactly how it went down. Yeah, like I'm gonna do
I'm
it.
having, I'm having such a good time. And one thing that I remember, I don't know if you mention it now, but like over that week, which can be a very intimidating process of like learning a skill, conducting yourself as a DJ,
Yeah,
you were surprised by your own ability to pick up the software, right?
yeah,
And so speak to that a little bit, because I think that's powerful.
yeah. So, I think definitely like watching my friends use production software, even though like a DAW or production software is different from DJ software.
Mm,
Like watching my friends do that helped me a lot. Just like um, recognize how like our technology and computers, like how they show us music and how they show us what's happening in music, what's happening in the song right now. And so a lot of it, and I'm going to use that word again, a lot of it somehow ended up being like really intuitive.
mm,
Like which was very, yeah, it was very unexpected for me
mm,
because I had always like had the assumption and maybe like confirmation bias by like doing things and them being hard about, like, I had the assumption of technology being difficult to understand and not
mm,
intuitive. And so yeah, I that thing that I had a big fear of, I still didn't get over it for like probably multiple years. I didn't completely get over it. It took time and there
mm,
was, there was steps to be climbed, but um it wasn't every time. It was never as scary as I imagined it to be, all of the
mm,
scariest parts were things that I built up in my head.
mm,
um and then yeah, the other part that I don't think I mentioned just now but I did before was that was really like the biggest fear for me, because I think for a lot of other people beginning to DJ or starting out and they want to start performing live, um, I've talked to people about this before. They've told me like their biggest fear about it is being up on stage in front of people. Is like
mm,
basically having to be a performer and like similar to like public speaking fear. And for me, because of like my history of acting, that wasn't even really on my mind. Like
mm,
I kind of thought, what if I'm up there and I look like know what I'm doing? I'll look stupid, maybe.
mm,
That thought definitely occurred to me, but I didn't have that feeling of like paralyzing stage fright that I think some other, like it holds other DJs back. Like really some really talented DJs I know will like not want to DJ in front of people just because they don't want people looking at them. And I think that helped me a lot. Like my acting experience actually helped me way more than I even realized before talking about it with you. Like talking
mm,
about it with you, I could see everything like in a row almost.
mm. Amazing. And there was one thing that you said that was beautiful. You were referring to what I'll call the imposter syndrome, like in the lead
Mhm.
up to and the day
Yeah.
um, well, you can say it, speak to it if you wish.
Remind me again of what I was saying, because
Yeah, basically that you felt like you were kind of fooling people,
yeah.
where you knew enough to get away with it.
Yes, yes. Right. So like yeah, at the beginning stages of DJing and like so the first type of DJing that I did wasn't actually like playing like my selection of music or playing like a set that I wanted to play. It was DJing, like maybe a little set of my own stuff
Mm,
to open up the night, just while people
mm,
are walking in. But then my main role was to DJ for the artists, like DJ for
mm,
rappers, which basically entails just, you get the music from them, you play their backing tracks, you play them in the right order, you start and stop, run the track back when they want you to. Yeah, you're doing kind of a different thing. But yeah, at the time when I was doing that, but I would sometimes play little sets of my
mm,
own selection of music to open up the night. At that time, I did feel like, oh, like the people who are complimenting me, the people who are saying I'm doing a good job at that part, don't even know that I don't know what I'm doing at all. I'm just like, I'm just,
mm,
I'm just still learning. Like I'm still such a baby that I just felt so intimidated by every other person who was a DJ, who was around me.
mm,
Like I was like, I'm not like you guys. I don't really know how to do it.
mm,
I wouldn't say that to them, but that was my like internal feeling
mm.
for
And
for
I
a
think,
while. You know.
yeah. And as a musician myself, I think it's very important to call that out for um, people who are yet to wake up to the inner artist within them, because that's normal, right?
Yeah, it's so
Feeling
normal. Everyone
it's
thinks that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that feeling of I don't know what I'm doing, and like that shouldn't be the feeling that impedes you, that stops you.
Yes, exactly. That should only be your sign to keep going, you know.
Ah, damn, Isabel. Damn. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
When you
Words of
start to feel
wisdom.
scared, keep going.
Hmm.
That's how I feel about it.
So, you're doing some of your own sets and you're supporting these artists.
Hmm.
Um, but that's not enough, right? Like, you're not really able to showcase your stuff.
Right.
And more importantly, you're putting in all this time and effort, but you're not getting paid for any of it. So tell
Yeah.
us the story of, your struggles of trying to pursue this in a bigger way and some of the, issues you grapple with.
Hmm. So at first I was like a little bit blinded just by the joy of like finally being able to do something and like be a part of what everyone else was creating. And like I like finally had like an active role. Um, and so I was just excited. And then always, I was always doing it for free. And because I was excited at first, I didn't really like think of it or notice, or I didn't
Mm,
feel like I deserved to be paid, which is really like, that's not right, but that's how I felt. And
mm,
so, um, I kind of started to ask my friends, if I could DJ more at places, at events where we were throwing the event ourselves, where I would like hope to get a cut of what we made. And um, I don't know like why really. I think it was just like we were disorganized, we were
mm,
young. Um, People's pursuits of their art were like more uh, selfish than
mm,
what you actually need to make like a community or a collective of artists be able to work together. Um,
mm,
like we could make amazing stuff together as friends, but I think it would when we would need to be serious and get down to business, not be emotional about things, it was very difficult for all of us at the time, like including
mm,
myself. We always turn things into emotional problems,
mm,
or like there would be petty things that would happen within the friend group or like with our friendships that then would like impede business or
mm,
like yeah impede business opportunities. um And so, yeah, I started to kind of feel like I had these weird mixed feelings about like wanting to DJ a lot more, but feeling like n more negative about like uh the stuff we were doing, like kind of feeling like this isn't being done the right way, this isn't enough, this and that. Um, and you know, the friend group started to become a little more distant as well. But we did this show together at the end of 2019, in December
Mm-hmm.
2019. It was a house show in at this place in Roxbury, Massachusetts, and uh, it was kind of like a scramble. Like there was something had gone wrong with my computer beforehand. I had to get software on my friend's computer, get all my music onto her computer, use that one. The other DJ didn't have his computer, so he was using this like kind of bad one. There was all this crazy stuff happening beforehand, but the during that show, that was one of the first times, and I was really scared to do it. That was one of the first times where like I DJ'd for a long period of time, like
Mm-hmm.
transitioning and playing my music. And this friend who I did it with, his name is Noah. He's um he's a DJ too. He has like DJ'd in New York before, and he's been DJing for at that time it was 7 years. So I guess now it's like almost 10 years that he's been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had such a nonchalant attitude about it. It was like the polar
Mm-hmm.
opposite of me, who was being very anxious and nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this now still all the time. Is like I was like, what if this happens? What if we don't get this music? What if we make this mistake? And he said like, we will. Like we will make that mistake. The music will fuck up. That's gonna go wrong. That's gonna go wrong. But the show will go on. Like I've played so many times, something always goes wrong, but if you just keep going, like that's what you have to do. You just have to keep pushing through the night. And
Mm-hmm.
so sure enough, one or two things would go slightly wrong, but the show was really magical. There were so many people there, like who came and were dancing, watching us DJ. There were so many people there who came to watch our friends perform. Um, and the host, like the organizer, um, really enjoyed it too, and that was like the beginning of a friendship with him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us all talking that night, and we were all talking about how it felt like something new had started. Like this was a new beginning for a lot of us, like something big. But it was at the end of 2019, right? So then 2020 happened.
Yeah.
The big pandemic happened, and everything kind of got ripped apart. Like venues were shutting down, house shows weren't happening at all anymore. My friend Noah, who I talked about, moved away, moved a few states away, and I haven't seen him literally since 2019, I think, or maybe I saw
Wow.
him once early 2020. And a lot of people just got split up. They had to go somewhere to do work. They had to go back home to family. And for a few months, like I just I didn't do anything that had to do with music. I didn't practice DJing or yeah.
But there was a turning point because
But then there was a turning point.
COVID was the source of a lot of your power and like what we're seeing today. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I can't remember if so I think it was like after the show that I had just talked about, because it was for Christmas in 2019. I finally got my own DJ controller, which is kind of like um I guess it kind of is like beginner equipment. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the equipment it's the cheaper equipment. It's the equipment you purchase, and you still have to like use your full laptop with it. There's a lot of other things that are, like standard club equipment is way more complex and technologically advanced, I guess. But I got my controller, and I still have my controller and use it, and it was very special to me. When I got it, I remember thinking, like, it was still before COVID hit. I remember thinking, okay, now I have to work as a DJ because, even though it's the beginner equipment, it's still an expensive piece of equipment. And I was like, my family, like, put their money together to buy me this equipment. I have to, like, pay them back by not literally paying them back, but pay them back by showing that I'm, like, working, doing this,
Mm.
that I am passionate about it. So yeah, so then COVID, and then things were difficult. People were trying to figure out just where they were going to be, where they were going to live for a few months, and started living with my partner at the time. And I like would practice sometimes. I think I went live on Instagram and DJ'd like casually for myself. But then, you know, before COVID hit and like around the time I did that show and a little bit before, I had been kind of reaching out to more people or asking people when they were reached out to and being asked for a DJ to recommend me, and so people, I was getting more communication with people who wanted to book DJs, but because I didn't have like any mixes uploaded, I didn't have like experience, like people didn't know of events that I played in the city, I would get either like rejected or not responded to when I was trying to
Mm.
do gigs, trying to pursue bookings, trying to pursue jobs. And it was very discouraging to me because I started to wonder like maybe they're right and I'm not good and I should stop trying to do
Mm.
this. Um,
Damn.
I don't think anything big really made me change my mind. I think just my inherent like stubbornness was kind of like I just want them to be wrong. I want to be right. Like I don't care if it like if the, like I don't care about like making them uh regret saying no to me or getting revenge. I just want them to be wrong about me not being a good DJ or whatever assumptions they're making based like that they're not hiring me based on.
Mm.
Nothing against anyone who did that also. Like
Of course.
I understand you don't want to hire someone who's not showing you a resume. Like you need to know what you're working with. So then I started to uh, make mixes like in my home, just in my bed. Like take a lot of time to curate the music, create a very specific mood, and then like try to practice and learn, improve my skills as a DJ to make a mix and to have something to show, to be able to start getting booked if, that was ever a possibility again, which I didn't know at the time I was take me. But
Mm.
throughout like all of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, I was making these mixes at home and, obviously like watching video lessons on how better to use my equipment and software and stuff. And I felt like I was learning so much on my own in the confines of quarantine. And like, I was lucky enough to be able to stay home and not have to go out to work. But, while that is a blessing for someone who's extroverted like me, it was still like very, very difficult. And I felt like, um, I just felt like extremely lonely at times, even though I was living with
Mm.
at least one other person at all times. I never was completely alone. I felt so lonely because I would think of like just being around crowds of people, and what I was trying to pursue would also lead me to that. Um,
Mm.
but then I just started to think about being one of the people in the audience too, and how much I missed just that, like being able to attend like concert or musical events with someone else and like just be in a large group of strangers and be happy. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, so as like as soon as like the in the like fall of 2021, as soon as
Mm-hmm.
like things started coming back and um, places started opening up again, vaccines started rolling out, and I luckily was approached again, um, because I was definitely putting myself out there to try to get work, and
Mm-hmm.
I was approached again by that same organizer at the place in Roxbury, for a show. And the first time he asked me to play a show, I actually said no because the vaccine process, like my household was in the middle of all getting vaccinated. I had been
Mm-hmm.
vaccinated, most everyone else had, but one person hadn't, and one person was waiting to get their second shot. So they, we kind of had a few discussions, and they didn't feel completely comfortable with me going somewhere with like some that there could potentially be like hundreds of people, and like exposing myself like that. So I said no because of that reason, and I was like, like, but I told him, please, please ask me again, like, please come back
Mm-hmm.
and don't forget about me. And so not too long after that, he did, like, probably like a week or two later, he did ask me again, okay, what about this show? And I said, yes, I'm in. I want to play it. And um, we this was like, yeah, the very end or the very beginning of October 2021, or the very end of September. It was like one of those times. And we had to reschedule the show because there was all this situation with the venue. So we had to reschedule it to a Thursday, and we felt a little bit bummed. We didn't know if it was going to be good, if people were going to come on a Thursday. And it ended up being, maybe to this day, the most amazing crowd I've ever had in front of me when I've played a live set. It was just amazing. It was incredible. The energy of everyone who attended that party that day was just like
Mm-hmm.
so beautiful. People were there to listen to good music. People were there to dance. People were there to like be present in their bodies and just like be like together, And I think a lot of that was like that initial post-COVID like explosion of wanting to be social again. But
Mm-hmm.
then also all of the other artists who were on the bill with me, the organizer obviously, and myself, we all were so excited, and we definitely put our all into that. So the fact that it ended up being so successful for all of us, like it was just a great night. And then at that point, that was really like the start of like this whole new stage that I'm in of DJing, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm like actually taking it seriously and trying to make it a job, trying to work to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing DIY underground organizing, but also now trying to, I have a residency at a venue now, and I'm a DJ there and an organizer there, and trying to um, set up like official, professional, like nightlife events. And yeah, that show in 2021 was just like it was the root of all of that, and I'm always so grateful for it. I always think about it.
Hell yeah. You know what? Cheers to a very fulfilling experience
Yeah.
within DJing and many moments of inspiring and supporting other women to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, cheers to that. I hope that they do. I always love to meet other female DJs. It's one of my
Hmm.
favorite things.
Hell yeah. So with that, um, I want to say we're at that point of culminating. This has been a beautiful, magical conversation. You've been an amazing, amazing
Thank you. Thank you so much for having
guest.
me. It's been really fun for me too, and like so eye-opening. Like all of your questions really make me think about my life in a different way, you know.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. And I want to thank our audience now and in the future. We hope that this episode sort of opens your eyes to your own limiting beliefs, and the journey of inspiration and how it can change the trajectory of your life in such a beautiful way. And until the next time,
Yes.
love and light.
Love and
Thank
light,
you.
peace and love. Nice talking. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.